We're in an alarming time in history. A woman can come in for a C-section in a hospital. She's asked, hey, do you think you're going to have any more children? Because while you're open, we might as well tie or cut your tubes. We don't have to tie or cut anything because this is natural and good. I can't believe I'm sharing some of this stuff.
Hi everyone, so we have Lisa Canning on the show with us today. She is the Possibility Mom. And this episode is for any woman out there who might be struggling with the idea of having children and yet also being very ambitious with her business goals. Because today we get to sit down with Lisa and talk about her own transformation when it came from kind of being afraid of having children and wanting to postpone that life into fully diving into it while marrying it with these incredible ambitions as a wife, mother, and business owner who now helps other women strive for those same possible dreams. We also will get to hear about a new project she is working on to help transform women's healthcare. So help me welcome to the show, Lisa Canning. All right, Lisa, well, welcome to the PeakLife Show.
Well, I'm so happy to be here with you.
Thank you, and thanks for your yes to being here. So first off, just tell our audience a little bit about you. I have followed you on Instagram for many, many years, so I know quite a bit, but give our audience just a couple tidbits about who you are, what you do.
I'm currently a mom of 10 sweet little human beings on earth with one more on the way. And then I have a sweet baby girl in heaven that we lost through miscarriage. My career is a very interesting one. I started as an HGTV personality. So I started my career in front of the camera. I had a show in 2007 and then worked for many years behind camera, working on shows like The Property Brothers and many other HGTV personalities. That work took me all over the United States and Canada. And I had a very happy, fun career both in front of and behind the camera. But I also was having lots of fun being married to my husband and having children in rapid succession. We had children like every 18 months or so, like very, very, very rapidly. Wow. And that became increasingly more unsustainable with this television life I was living out. And it became very, very challenging identity-wise. All these people telling me, yeah, you really should not get pregnant because it's going to negatively impact your television career. So I was like, I have no idea who to listen to. I didn't have the skills back then to discern for myself what might be the most important thing to do. And so I went around life trying to prove myself to everyone, and spoiler alert, that does not result in favorable outcomes. And so my transition to becoming a business and a life coach came out of my own peril. Like I just sort of was like, Lord, I don't think you want me to be this unhappy. I don't think you want my spouse to be this unhappy. You've given me all these children, but you've also given me all these gifts. So show me, Lord, what it looks like to use all of those in a way that is pleasing to you, in a way that honors your design for my life, my fertility, my family, in a way that makes us make money, because that was a very important component to all of this. Yeah. And show me how to do it. And so he did. But he showed me over the years what that looks like, how you can invite the Lord into your discernment. And I turned all of that into a book, The Possibility Mom. And so that's how you and I are sitting here today. I started coaching, speaking, and there's a lot of satisfaction that comes out of helping women to realize their potential. And then very recently, that whole potential concept has also translated into potential with women's healthcare. And so I've recently been invited to take the helm of an organization called the Guiding Star Project, where I serve as president, where we introduce women to the truths of their body, the potential of their body, that they can operate completely in line with the natural way that God has created us with our superpowers. And so I do quite a bit of work with women in the United States in the pro-life medical space. The word surrender in my life is very relative. I would say in the beginning, that's how I got into trouble, so to speak. I would not surrender. I was like, Lord, no, I'm going to just prove that I can do all of it. And it resulted in burnout. It resulted in so much tension in my marriage. I was raised in this sort of environment of girl power and very much crash glass ceiling. So this notion that women have a spot at the table and we need women there, blah, blah, blah. All that fun rhetoric.
Yeah.
I could not understand how that was reconciled with family life. And in fact, this is super vulnerable to share, I delayed getting married for as long as I possibly could. So my sweet husband, he proposed when we were still in school. It was very easy for me to use school as the excuse. Like, no, like I want to be engaged to you, but we're not going to set a date until I'm done, like exams. Like, let me get through exams. That's like reasonable. Like, I'll just get through my exams and then we'll set a wedding date. And then I just never set a wedding date. Like, it just kept going on and on and on and on. And I realized that the huge sort of impediment for me of setting our wedding date was that I was like, I don't know how to reconcile kids and all this drive I have. And so it's a very long-winded way of explaining that finally the Lord healed my heart. It was, and my husband had finally given me a somewhat mild ultimatum. He was like, I know you love me. I can tell. I don't think this is a me problem. I think this is a you problem. And he was like, but you kind of can't just keep stringing me along like this. Like, you either have to say we're going to get married or we're not. And I'll never forget it. And it's hard for me to not get emotional every time I tell the story because it was just so poignant. It was literally as if he was in my ear, like a person right next to me. And he said, the most important thing you will ever do is be a wife and mom. And just like that audible, the most important thing you will ever do is be a wife and mom. I remember like standing up, or maybe I felt like I stood up, but it just was this feeling of like, okay, the like chains have come off, the like burden has been, removed. And then I literally wrote my husband a card being like, I'll marry you on December 8th, 2007. Like just like, okay, fine. Here's the, like, finally here's the date. That was a very important identity shift. And it was interesting because he was like, I could hear him almost say other words. Like, it's not like you're going to not do other things.
Yeah.
Like, it's not exclusive, but the most important thing you will ever do is be a wife and mom. And so that was a huge shift. There is a book that I encourage your listeners to dive into. It's Hannah's Children by Dr. Catherine PeakLife. And Dr. Catherine did this study. She's a professor of economics. So I find her economic lens on large family living and openness to life fascinating. She has so many things to say about the relationship between economics and large families. Anyway, she did this study on Catholic and non. So there were Catholic families, Jewish families, Mormon families, and I can't recall if there were any non-religious families, but I would say a diverse group of people with 5 or more children. And she really focused on the reasons why. And overwhelmingly, or at least from my memory, the data was, they enjoy children. And I would say that's myself and my husband. It's like, we're not on some race to be like, competitive. Like, we want the biggest passenger van, like
new HGTV show for them over here.
The things that people have said to me over the years, my friend, about like, oh, like, are you just trying to get like a soccer team, a hockey team? Oh, you're just trying to even the sexes. Oh, this, that, whatever. Like, I have received every absurd comment under the sun. But honestly, what I think people fail to realize in large families, and I can only speak for myself, but I anecdotally know what my girlfriends also think and what the women in Dr. PeakLife's book. I genuinely enjoy children. I love having them. Do I love every aspect of being pregnant? Of course not. I'm so sore. I have sciatic pain. I'm exhausted. Being 41 and pregnant is very different than, in my experience, being 28 and pregnant.
Yeah.
So it's not, I don't enjoy every aspect of like the tensions and the difficulties, but like, I love watching my older children with my younger children. I love many of the elements of a large family, like even the logistics, like just like getting around places, the way that my family, there's a lot of helping that happens. There's a lot of community that happens, in a large family. And I think people don't realize, like, some women and men simply just enjoy children. And so I am one of them.
So what was that journey in figuring out, okay, we're having children, we want to continue to have children, and yet you also have this really beautiful drive to work and to kind of be a boss woman, a boss mama, So where did you start kind of connecting those dots to where you had peace with the both and?
There's so many angles in which I could take this, but I'm just going to go like straight to the deepest part, and that is discernment. So what do I mean by that? Everyone is created uniquely, and we are all called to do something different. And so I think I would have made life a lot easier for myself if I had known how to discern. And knowing how to discern comes out of a deep, intimate relationship with the Lord. So meaning you are talking to the Lord. When I say talking, literally like, Lord, this is really hard. Like literally the way you would talk to a friend. And, if this is a foreign concept, I invite people to read anything by Ignatius of Loyola, like the concept of discernment of spirits, anything by Father Jacques Philippe, like what it looks like to develop a life of interior peace, interior freedom. The book that I read every day, it's called Divine Intimacy. This is sort of
good. Yes.
This is not for the faint of heart, just FYI, just telling you all, this is not some light, happy, clappy, it's like the opposite of happy, clappy.
It's deep. Sometimes I read my daily, because I use it too, and I'll read my daily reflection. I'm like, 3 or 4 more times. Hold on.
Encouragement is that I avoided, like the plague, in the first few years of my career. Just invite the Lord into those decisions. Ask him, what do you want me to do with these gifts? What do you want me to do with my time? You have discerned that carefully. So if you said, Lord, okay, I've been given this opportunity to consider, is this where you want me to use my gifts?
Yeah.
Then you trust that he will make the things possible that will make it possible for you to do it without being a total not kind person to your family or not present to your family. And some of that takes a lot of faith. When I coach women in business, that's probably the biggest thing I observe is not enough. And it's natural, okay? Because nobody wants to set themselves up for failure. Nobody signs up and says, I'm going to do something where I'm going to publicly fail. That's just not human nature. But what I observe sometimes in myself as well is like, I don't trust your capacity, Lord, to make whatever this is possible. Or I don't trust your capacity, Lord, or ability, Lord, to help me navigate it when it is hard. And I really invite people to reflect on that because it's a very important thing. It's not wrong to do pros and cons lists and to sort of weigh how will this negatively impact my family. That's not wrong. Obviously, do that, right? But I do think that sometimes we look at the potential of pain or of like inconvenience or of hardship, and then we just use that as the automatic, no way I'm going to do that.
That's our excuse to just jump ship and not try.
And this is why discernment's so important, because it's like, well, what if you're invited to increase your trust radically? And that can be very scary.
I feel like I have so much to digest for myself. So if you're watching this, listening to this, take some notes, okay? Let's take our notes together because it's great to hear from someone too that has like lived these different stages of life. I'd love to shift gears a little bit to talk about the women's healthcare and advocacy that you're doing, and even maybe specifically, because I know you have daughters, how having daughters of your own, who I'm sure are, maybe some of them are of age where they're getting their period and they're coming into these conversations with friends and people around them and having to navigate the noise of the world. So give me a little insight into, as a mother, what maybe that has looked like, And then we can talk a little bit about what that advocacy has looked like in women's healthcare as well.
So Guiding Star Project was founded by this beautiful woman named Leah Jacobson, who I'm so grateful to know and be friends with. It's like, wouldn't it be great if we could combine the resources of pregnancy resource centers, fertility awareness coaching, and birth, and just provide all of that in one stop, like a one-stop location. Yeah. And that was the original vision of Guiding Star. And we now have 7 physical locations across the United States. We've had 60 groups reach out with interest to expand. And our newest venture is in Tampa, Florida, a birth center. But what makes Guiding Star, and to answer your question about motherhood and my own daughters, what makes Guiding Star really unique is that we have articulated why it's so important that healthcare begin as young as age 9 and then go all the way through to menopause. Like, you can't just sort of focus on birth, because if you only focus on birth, we have no sense of how birth happens. We have no sense then, like, after birth, like, what can I expect? We're in an alarming time in history where a woman can come in for a C-section in a hospital, and then literally while she's kind of dazed and drugged and kind of, in a state of mild trauma, like that can happen. Even good things can provide, a traumatic experience. She's asked, hey, do you think you're going to have any more children? Because while you're open, we might as well tie or cut your tubes. Right. That's the reality. And so what we're trying to do at Guiding Star is give people immense education that we don't have to tie or cut anything, because this is natural and good. And your ability to have babies is not something to be suppressed or treated like a disease. It breaks my heart that we are growing up in a generation where so flippantly a woman will be prescribed a pill that will absolutely suppress something that her body is designed to do. But it's just become a lot more factual and a lot more empowerment. So one of the things, again, I'll just bring up Cycle Show. There's this notion of, I cannot protect what I do not value and respect. So if I'm going to be kind of like there's an element there of, I don't value this, or I'm afraid of it, or, I'm trying to run from it. Whereas when you think of, I cannot protect what I don't value and respect, we're coming from this place of like, wow, I have a superpower. Like, my ability to make a baby is a unique and incredibly powerful ability. Like, even just look at my body language when I'm talking that way. Like, I sit up straight. I there's a twinkle in my eye. And so that's the kind of environment I'm now trying to raise my family in, as opposed to like, oh, I'll tell you that when you're older. Now, of course, there's an age appropriate way you do everything. So I'm not saying you just don't do this with some prudence or with some reason, right? But it's a very, we don't shy from these conversations anymore. And it's very much like, which I actually really try to honor also where my daughters might be in their cycles, like, and where I might be in my particular, hormonal levels and whatnot.
Yes, I think that's incredible. And that's very much aligned too with what CCL and Peak Day have been trying to do to get the world to really understand that learning about our bodies, while it can seem intimidating to learn your cycle and mucus and what's actually happening under there, because for some reason we didn't learn it in sex ed in high school, it can feel overwhelming, but really it's so foundational to just having good communication, just for yourself, for your healthcare provider, but also for families, for mothers and daughters to be able to talk so openly about, hey, honey, you're on your period, or you just got off, or, maybe this is why you're feeling this way, like, it's okay. But in a very similar way, it's like we can take that ownership back by saying, I do know my body, and to take it to healthcare providers and to say, I'm having these symptoms, I don't want the Band-Aid, because I want to get to the solution, So I love that you guys have that course. I know Peak Day has a course for teenage daughters and their mothers to kind of go through together, because a lot of us mothers too maybe discovered cycle tracking and all of that later on in life. Even if we're not using it for family planning, we still know it because we know how much that impacts our day-to-day life, our energy, our food intake even, or how we're responding to our kids at a certain time. And to be able to, like you said, offer grace to yourself, but then also extend that. One of the things that obviously we do here at Peak Day is we have the Peak Day app. And so, kind of the role of technology in cycle tracking and in women's health and fertility nowadays, because as I'm sure you know full well from working with all these birth centers and everything, it's kind of interesting that the world doesn't really know about all the resources that are at our fingertips as women to make more health conscious choices for our bodies, so that we don't have to use a pill to suppress certain things. And yeah, so what do you think is the role that technology can play, or maybe you've seen played in the women's healthcare world right now?
I don't have the exact statistic memorized, but the femtech industry is this is content I immerse myself in regularly, and I don't have this particular stat memorized, but it was something ridiculous, like in the billions of dollars. It is set to be a very financially a place of financial interest for investors, because people are starting to see these trends. They're starting to see that it's not just Catholics, for example, or it's not just Christians who are looking to perhaps naturally delay or just be more aware, right? Yeah. It's also just your woman who is realizing that I don't want plastic in my water. I don't want toxins in my beauty products.
Yeah.
I want a natural approach to either my family planning or my approach to my hormonal health. And that's becoming popular, amongst non-faith-based crowds, right? And I think if I could be like see the future a little bit, yes. I think we're going to see big advancements in infertility and tracking specifically to get pregnant with the same, with similar technology as we have with other apps, but like specifically to women who are desiring to get pregnant. I think there's a lot of potential in that arena.
Yeah. It's so funny you bring that up. Just before we hopped on this call, I was filming some stuff for Peak Day and CCL about using the Peak Day app to get pregnant, and some of the statistics they've been able to see, because so many of the tracking apps, they'll use a calendar or just averages based on different women, right? Versus Peak Day is using the symptothermal method, which we know is a scientific-based NFP method, for women to put in their temperature, track their cervical mucus, and like 60 plus other signs and symptoms that they want to track, right? And accuracy, like you said, on some of these apps is becoming just so great and so good, and it's right there at our fingertips, and it's almost like, gosh, I wish I grew up with that, because maybe what kind of things or confusion I could have avoided, or being put on birth control because my cycle was weird. And then as soon as I came off of it, literally nothing had changed, But if I had had something that I could really trust, was taking into consideration my body and my signs and hormonal fluctuations, to be able to figure out, okay, well, what's the root cause of that instead? Oh, I'm low progesterone. Who would have thunk?
It's language that I think is becoming more common parlance now, right? Like even the word progesterone, I think, was not as sort of in the vernacular as it is today. I really do like just challenging people to have knowledge. Like, do you know what's happening? What's happening in your body? Are you aware of, like, even just how one gets pregnant? This whole notion of body literacy, I think, is really what it is. It's like, just do you know your body? Do you know what it can do? Do you know what it's capable of? Like, just these basic conversations of body literacy. So
I think having that conversation around body literacy can lead to all those other things, because it's, do you know what happens? Do you know what it's capable of? And then that kind of shifts into, do you know what you are capable of, right? Not just what your body can do, but do you know how capable you are to handle it? And I think that's the conversation that will shift our culture, hopefully in the next generations, for women to be able to feel that empowerment, breaking that glass ceiling in a sense, but with confidence in what we're capable with our motherhood, with being able to bear children, and the, like you said, the superpower that is the female body and all that it is to offer.
And this is why I just think it's so important that as a culture, like one of the things I want my children, we really believe in classical education because this is a big tenet of it, is can we be curious? Just full stop. Can we be curious? Because I think even someone who has gone through trauma can get to that first point of curiosity. She might not be able to get further than that without healing, like without significant healing. So I mean therapy, without physiotherapy even. So like mental, spiritual, all the things. She might not be able to get beyond curiosity, but can we ask good questions that can maybe then lead us? Well, what if healing was possible? What if another child was possible? What if I could feel empowered about my body instead of a victim to it? Like just that small little what if can be helpful to everyone.
I think that's a great place to leave off our viewers. And thank you, Lisa, for allowing us to be curious about your life and dive into, oh my goodness, every aspect, it feels like.
I'm curious how I allowed myself to be so vulnerable today. I'm telling you, it's the advanced maternal age hormones of pregnancy. I'm like, I don't care about anything anymore.
I really do think that just certain bits of these conversations are going to land in the hearts of several women the way that they need to.